Maybe for a long time you have believed that what you lack is outside. More information, more techniques, more answers. However, what you call lack is not an absence of power, but a disconnection from something that is already active at deeper levels within you. Healing does not arrive as something that is acquired, but as something that is remembered. This understanding is not new. It has been silently intuited by ancient traditions that spoke of internal coherence long before modern words existed to explain it. And today, without the need to force validation, it begins to find resonance in the contemporary understanding of the body, the mind, and consciousness. In spiritual awakening, spirituality is not taught as a set of beliefs. Here, recognition is provoked. What you already intuited is named, but had not yet organized. What follows will not add something foreign to your life. It will present a clear structure, principles that organize what was already scattered within you. And perhaps the most important thing is this: you are not about to learn something new, but to remember with precision something that never stopped being there. If this space resonates with you, and you recognize that something within you becomes ordered when you hear these words, subscribe to spiritual awakening. Not as an automatic gesture, but as a conscious decision to remain in a place where truth is not imposed, it is remembered, and where every encounter is an opportunity to return to your own coherence. What we begin to organize today does not arise from a recent trend or an improvised theory. Ancient contemplative traditions already pointed out that the human being is not fragmented, that mind and body are not separate entities, and that suffering is born when that internal coherence is broken. For centuries, this knowledge was transmitted in silence, not as doctrine, but as direct experience. Today, through other languages, the deep psychology and neuroscience begin to describe phenomena that point in the same direction. The connection between thought, emotion, and biology. The influence of attention on the nervous system. The capacity of the brain to reorganize itself when the internal state changes. This is not about turning this into absolute validation, but about recognizing a convergence. What was once called spiritual is now beginning to be understood in terms of coherence, regulation, and integration. And here something interesting happens. What once seemed mystical may simply have been ahead of its time. We are not talking about believing in something external, but about recognizing a pattern that runs through cultures, eras, and different disciplines. And if different perspectives coincide in pointing inward, perhaps what we are touching is not a new idea, but a truth that was always waiting for another language to be understood. The path we are about to go through is not an accumulation of ideas, but a clear structure. It is articulated in concrete principles that do not add something external to your life, but awaken a capacity that was already present, although scattered. When each one points to a different level of your experience, the mind that interprets, the emotion that reacts, the body that responds, and the internal field that holds everything in coherence. This is not about magical solutions or formulas to obtain quick results. These are organized reminders that allow what you already are to function without interference. When they are integrated, biology regulates itself with greater balance, the mind stops fragmenting, and the internal state begins to align naturally. However, each principle on its own only shows a part. What truly transforms is understanding how all of them form a single inner architecture. And that understanding does not appear at the beginning, but when the complete map begins to reveal itself as a whole. You probably do not feel lost. You function, you fulfill, you respond. You breathe without noticing it. You think without stopping. You move from one day to another as if everything were in order. And yet, there is a subtle sense of disconnection that appears in moments of silence, as if something within you knew that you are operating below your own depth. Your mind repeats internal dialogues that you already know by heart. It reviews the past, anticipates the future, corrects itself, questions itself. Your body responds with slight but constant tension. Nothing seems serious, so nothing seems dramatic. But here something happens that almost no one observes. That sustained normality can be a form of incoherence. It is not incapacity. It is not a lack of intelligence or will. It is living on autopilot, where breathing is mechanical, thinking is reactive, and attention is fragmented. However, the real problem is not stress, nor external circumstances, nor even intense emotions. The problem is that you have become accustomed to functioning disconnected from your center, and when disconnection becomes habitual, it stops feeling like something strange. It becomes your standard. Perhaps what you call fatigue or stagnation is not weakness, but the natural effect of having normalized an incoherence that keeps your power on pause. To move through this incoherence that has become normal, what follows will not be abstract. It is organized in a clear sequence of principles, each one showing a different layer of the same internal process. They are not isolated ideas. They form a map that unfolds progressively, as if each step prepares the next without you noticing it at the beginning. Some of these principles will seem simple to you, even obvious. You may think you already know them. And yet, here something important happens. What seems most basic is often the foundation that you never fully integrated. Other principles will touch deeper beliefs. They will question the way you have interpreted your body, your mind, and your identity. The last one is not a spectacular secret or an external promise. It is simply the point where everything that came before is understood from another perspective. But it cannot be understood without having gone through the previous ones. Each part supports the next. This journey has internal coherence. It is not designed to impress, but to organize. And if you decide to remain until the end, it will not be out of superficial curiosity, but because something within you recognizes that the complete map is only revealed when it is walked step by step. It is easy to point at circumstances, work, relationships, lack of time, the environment. And although all of that influences, there is a truth that many prefer not to look at. Stagnation rarely begins outside. It is sustained in internal patterns that repeat without you questioning them. Thoughts that go in circles, self-criticism that becomes a habitual voice, internal dialogue that silently erodes your confidence. Disconnection from the body, where tension accumulates without you listening to it. Separation from nature, not only from trees or the earth, but from your own internal nature. And this is where most people deceive themselves. They confuse adaptation with coherence. It is not punishment. It is not bad luck. It is misalignment sustained over time. When your mind goes in one direction, your emotions in another, and your body responds to both with stress, an invisible friction is created. That friction is the real blockage. The problem is not that you lack resources, but that you are operating in a fragmented way. It is not that the world prevents you from moving forward. but that you have become accustomed to functioning separated from your center. And when separation becomes normalized, inner power is pushed into the background. If the root of discomfort is internal, not as guilt, but as incoherence, then the possibility of reorganizing it is internal as well. If, upon recognizing this, you feel that something within you begins to organize itself, subscribe to spiritual awakening. Not as an automatic gesture, but as a conscious decision to remain in a space where this clarity can deepen without distractions, where each encounter is a reminder of what you already know and of the coherence you are beginning to recover. And coherence does not appear as an extraordinary experience. It manifests in simple acts that, when lived with presence, silently reorganize the entire internal system. Breathing, for example, is not only an automatic biological function. When your attention returns to the rhythm of the air entering and leaving, something begins to align. The body regulates, the mind slows down, and the nervous system finds a point of balance. And here something happens that usually goes unnoticed. You do not change the breathing. The state from which you breathe changes. The same happens with thought. It is not about forcing it or denying emotions. It is about recognizing when the mind repeats a narrative that fragments your energy. When you observe that internal dialogue without merging with it, a new space emerges. In that space, coherence begins to be restored, not because you impose positivity, but because you stop feeding internal division. The way you speak to yourself also reflects that level of integration. Constant self-criticism wears down the body more than you imagine. But when the internal tone becomes more conscious, more balanced, the entire system responds. It is not indulgence, it is alignment. Even the everyday, such as the way you eat or rest, stops being an automatic habit and becomes an expression of internal order. When food is received with presence, the body cooperates. When rest is respected, the mind stabilizes. But when you do it from presence, everything changes. Not because of the action itself, but because of the coherence that sustains it. And contact with nature is not an external activity, but a reminder of your own organic rhythm. Walking, feeling the air, observing without rush, returns to your system a pattern that it recognizes as its own. None of this is complex. It is simple. But when the simple is lived with awareness, it stops being routine and becomes deep reorganization. Understanding what is happening within you is only the beginning. True reorganization does not occur at the moment something is understood, but at the moment it is sustained. Because understanding does not transform, integration does. And integration requires continuity. That is why you can take this process as a conscious cycle. 21 days not as a rigid discipline, but as a sufficient threshold for your mind, your body, and your energy to begin aligning in a stable way. It is not about perfection, but about repeated presence, about returning again and again to the same center until it stops feeling like effort and becomes a natural state. If you decide to go through this threshold, you can write it in the comments as a public internal declaration, not to prove anything, but to anchor your decision. And if you feel that this space sustains your clarity, subscribe as a conscious act of permanence, not for the accumulation of content, but for coherence. This is not about following someone, but about remembering together what we already are when we stop fragmenting ourselves. None of this requires you to abandon your current life or to build a completely different version of yourself. Coherence begins in the everyday, in scenes that are already part of your day. Walking for a few minutes without your phone, feeling the contact of your feet with the ground can become an act of integration. It is not only exercise, it is recovered presence. Regulating rest is not an external rule. It is recognizing that your system needs rhythm. Going to sleep at a similar time, allowing the body to power down without constant stimuli, is returning to it an order it has always sought. And this is where the spiritual stops being a concept, when rest stops being neglect and becomes respect. Eating with attention, chewing without rush, breathing consciously in the middle of an intense day, we're opening a window and allowing the air to touch your face. They are small gestures. However, what seems small is what reorganizes everything, not because of the action itself, but because of the state from which you perform it. You do not need to change your environment. You need to change the way you inhabit your environment. When presence becomes constant, daily life stops being an automatic routine and begins to reflect the coherence you are cultivating. If you calmly observe everything we have gone through, you will notice that nothing was pointing outward. Each principle, each everyday gesture, each adjustment in attention pointed to the same core. The capacity for reorganization that already lives in your breath, in your mind, in your body, and in your heart. They were not separate rules, but different ways of returning to the center. When breathing becomes conscious, the mind becomes ordered. When internal dialogue softens, the body responds. When presence enters the everyday, energy stops fragmenting. Everything converges at the same point: coherence. And here something happens that changes perspective. The real change is not in correctly applying each principle, but in recognizing that you are the source from which they are activated. Nothing new was implanted in you. No extra capacity was added, nor was a foreign idea installed. Only the noise that kept your attention scattered was removed. But there is something that now becomes evident. Power does not depend on this space or on these words. It depends on your willingness to sustain the coherence that you have already begun to remember. Now the question is not what you are going to do tomorrow or what technique you will apply after this moment. The question is deeper. Will you continue inhabiting the disconnection you already know? Or will you begin to recognize yourself as the source that organizes your own experience? It is not an external decision. It is a choice of identity, almost silent, that only you can perceive when no one else is watching. Perhaps awakening is not an extraordinary event, but a memory that is activated in the middle of the breath. An instant in which the noise quiets and you hear the heartbeat more clearly. A threshold that does not force you to change your life, but to inhabit it from another place. Remain for a few seconds in that inner silence. Observe how you breathe now. Feel how something has settled without effort. The journey does not end here. In fact, it is only beginning to deepen at levels that do not need words to be understood. Because this is not a conquest that is obtained, it is a recognition that expands every time you choose to return to yourself.